In this video, you will learn how to play Hanon Exercise number 4. You will learn about the patterns that go into this exercise and 3 different ways to practice it. At the end, I will also play the Hanon Exercise number 4 for you. Let's get started. Here's a little preview of this exercise. So let's get started at the beginning. The way that Hanon exercises are built, each measure is a pattern. So measure 1 and measure 2 are essentially the same thing, except that measure 1 starts on a C and then measure 2 starts on a D. But really that pattern is the same. So let's take a look at that pattern. Once you learn measure 1, you technically have half of the Hanon exercise already learned. So in the beginning here, the right hand starts on a C and then goes up a step, back to C, up a third, but we're going to still go to the second finger here, then up a fourth all the way to the fifth and all the way down. And when we get to the 1, we're already on the D. So that's the full pattern right there, and that repeats starting on the D, and that repeats starting on the E. So then let's do the left hand. You're going to start on the 5th finger on the C and then move up a step and down a step. Then up a third, but go just to your 3rd finger, and then up a 4th to the thumb and all the way down. And you end up on the D and continue that pattern. And so on. I would suggest when you start learning this, learn the first measure hands apart just to make sure you're doing the right fingering, and then learn the first measure hands together before you go on and learn the rest of the Hanon exercise hands apart. I really don't think there's a point in doing that unless you're really beginner. So learn the first measure hands apart, then learn the first measure hands together, and then literally just copy and paste that all the way until you get to half the piece. So we did it hands apart, let's do it hands together. I think the hardest part here is moving that 2nd finger to the E while keeping that 3rd finger here on the E in the left hand, because the hands are doing slightly different things even though playing the same notes. So let's try it hands together and do it slowly at first. On that first note of the next measure, and you can do it slower than that if you would like, and then as you get confident, keep increasing your tempo until you're at about this tempo right here that I played it at, or you can go just a tad faster. Don't go too fast because now you have to connect the whole first half of the Hanon exercise. Let's just preview that a little bit. So on. It really does the same pattern over and over again. I hope that you can hear that as well. Now we're going to skip over to the second half, and this is where the music starts to go down instead of up. And so the pattern basically flip-flops. It's a similar pattern, usually not exactly the same, but very similar to kind of work the same type of fingers in the opposite hand. So we're going to do the right hand again. Now you're going to start with the 5 on the G, and you're going to go down a step and up a step. That reminds me of the beginning where you went up a step and down a step. So now down a step and up a step. And then down a 4th and down a 3rd. So a little bit backwards. And then all the way up to F, and that's your new note in which the pattern starts. But when you're practicing, I would really just stop on that F and learn that first measure of this new pattern before going on. Then the left hand, we're going to start on the thumb here. We're going to go down a step and up a step, same exact thing as the right hand. 1, 2, 1. Then the 3rd finger is going to be, you're going to have your hand open a little bit here. The 3rd finger is going to go to the D. That's a fourth down, and then third down to the 5 on the B, and then all the way up to F. And that is your pattern. So let's try that slowly, hands together. And that's your pattern, and that pattern repeats over and over. Let me just take a little bit of a faster tempo so you can see the picture here. And so on. It goes all the way down to the end with that same pattern. So now, let's say you've learned the notes in this Hanon exercise, but what do? Are you just going to play it from beginning to end, or will you do something else to really improve your technique in this? So first of all, I would suggest to practice it slowly. You could even practice with the metronome slowly to make sure you're keeping a steady beat. So your very first thing to do is just keep a steady beat as you're playing through slowly. Don't try to really do it as fast as you can in the beginning. So I'm going to play about the first 4 measures in a slow tempo for you so that you can see this technique. The next technique is going to be to play it staccato, and to play staccato in a way where your fingers are really just plucking the keys. When you do this, you're learning to get very active fingers, and your fingers are learning how to play notes quickly and precisely. So let's give it a try. You're gonna pluck those fingers like that. Very good. And then technique number 3 is going to be to do some rhythm work. So we're going to do a long, short rhythm. So we're going to pair notes in groups of 2s. This also has a second part to it where you do have to do the opposite rhythm. So if we do long, short, we need to do short, long as well in order to balance out the beat and to make sure that you don't mess up your rhythm as you're working on your technique. So let's do that one as well. Short, long. That one always sounds a little bit funny because that's always the notes that fall in between, but it's very important that you do that part as well. If you do the first rhythm exercise, you have to do part B, the second part of that exercise as well. And if you do these 3 steps in practicing Hanon, I promise you will improve your technique, and it will improve fairly quickly. Hanon is actually very good for improving your technique because it does deal with patterns so much. There is not as much really learning a lot of different notes like you would in an etude. So it's a little bit more simple, but it still has a lot of fast notes that you can work on so that you can improve your technique quickly. I have had quite a few adult and older teenage students that have done fabulous after they have started practicing Hanon exercises. They actually improved their technique so much. Give it a try and let me know how it goes. I would love to hear how your Hanon exercises are doing and if this was helpful for you. Also, don't forget to subscribe below and leave a comment, like the video if you found it helpful. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.